Hey guys, it's Will here from Ministry of Fitness, and we're here talking today about recovery myths, methods, and marginal gains. I've got Mike here, Coach Mike from Recovery Systems, here to talk to us today about what he specialises in, which is recovery. So Mike, let's start off. Tell us a bit about yourself and your sporting background.
Alrighty, okay, so let me start introducing myself with what I want written on my tombstone. So what the three things I want written on my tombstone are: save some people from having their legs amputated, and we have, because we supply the diabetic market and we've prevented amputations. Secondly, we've made the whole recovery component of working athletes that are passionate about sport and working full-time jobs and having families and key relationships in their life to maintain. We made their lot a whole lot better by improving the recovery quotient and making sure there's enough energy to go around all the key aspects of their life. And the third one is a little bit of a frivolous and a funny one: made a fortune from Camels. They are the three things that I want on my tombstone. So why Camels? Well, we actually invented a modality for racehorses for recovery for the equine market. So that would be show jumpers, dressage, racehorses, club ponies, improving the recovery aspects of animals, because horses are athletes with four legs. Now, it's not too big a stretch of the imagination to put these on camels as well, because there's 1 million racing camels in the Middle East. So there's my tombstone. That's what I want to do. We've already saved some people from having their legs amputated, diabetics. I'm here in Singapore, in fact, and if that's all I ever do with my life, then I'm pretty happy about that. But it goes a little beyond that. Just touching on my sporting background, I've been in endurance sports for around 55 years. Highest component of that from a sporting background was cycling, but I also got into multi-sport as I got older. I've been in Olympic teams, national teams. I've got a few national titles here and there. And I coached for 9 years in multi-sport. So but the whole time I was an athlete, I was also working full-time. So I know the demands on a person for recovery, and I was training 20 to 24 hours a week. So fairly high training load. In fact, last week I trained 22 hours. So as a 62-year-old, you have to really be on top of your recovery if you're going to be putting yourself through that load. So I thought long and hard about what could I do extra? What was a marginal gain? What did a marginal gain look like from my point of view, but also for the athletes that were in my care? So that led us 7 years ago to investigating the market and looking at different modalities, of which we settled on what we currently have been doing for the last 5 years, which is intermittent pneumatic compression. In getting to this point, we needed to understand all sorts of recovery and how it all fitted together.
100%, no, I agree. And I think everyone obviously who's watching would probably understand a lot of the stuff that we do is quite high tempo, high paced.
Yeah.
I think that recovery is crucial, particularly even if we're doing running as well. I know for me, with my military background, recovery was very, very big, particularly when we're doing a lot more of the kind of specialized courses and endurance exercises. Recovery was crucial. So obviously recovery is your expertise, it's what your business is. How would you define recovery, and what made you want to build your business around recovery?
Yeah, good question. So if I ask that question to someone who has a vascular condition or lymphedema or DVT or diabetes, recovery to them is returning to some sort of quality of life. And that may mean as simple as being able to walk again. So recovery means different things to different people. If I look at an athlete that we both know, Jessie Montague, Jessie has a very heavy training load. Recovery to her is quite different to say someone with a medical condition. So ultimately, Jessie's pushing the limits of her body. So recovery is essential for locking in the gains. Why? Because training makes you worse. And it's only when you recover does your body go into super compensation. So the key element to that is triggering your body's parasympathetic healing system. And that's where the nervous system resets. It's otherwise known as rest and digest. And the body is then able to upload the gains. So I like using the term upload because we all have to do that with software on our mobile phones and our computers. So we're essentially taking some time out to upload the gains. There's actually 4 use cases for what we do, because we're in isolation. Recovery is a key component of it. But the big 4 are that we really greatly influence are warm-up, recovery, rehab, and the 4th one is travel. Do you remember travel, Will?
Yeah, not for a while now, unfortunately.
All right. So over the course of this chat, I hope that we've got a chance to touch on those 4: warm-up, recovery, rehab, and travel, because they're key components of what we do and what we influence. So it's not just siloed into just recovery, which is very important, but there are other tricks that we bring to bear as a benefit to the athlete.
For sure. Okay, so let's look into recovery systems. The main thing you look at, or you kind of target, is the intermittent compression. So why do you talk about how does that work?
Alrighty. So it's basically a milking action. It's a squeeze and release around the limb. And when I'm saying limbs, we should always consider legs first, but we also have hip and glute area. We have pants, so that's from the feet to the waist, and we have arms. We also cover the torso. So there's different elements to recovery and different protocols for different body parts, but we're working by squeezing and releasing. So it's also squeezing under quite some pressure. It's about 10 times the pressure of a compression sock, for example. And as we know, compression socks are static. They're an okay modality, but they will only be effective if you're moving, because they rely on the muscle contracting to pump the blood. And the pressure of a compression sock is around between 10 and 20 mmHg, units of mercury, which is a measurement of pressure, whereas our garments are around 240 if you're on full power. So it's more than 10 times the pressure, and it's doing that milking action for you. And if I was to summarize the milking action, it squeezes the bad stuff out, and then when it releases, every minute it releases for 20 seconds, the blood flow comes back to speed up the healing, recovery, and gains. So that's what we're looking to do, and looking to bridge the gap between our training and recovery and ultimately the gains that we're looking for.
Yeah, fantastic. So I've actually used the leg compression through with a couple of athlete friends of mine after races, and then we've been sat down, strapped up my legs, and it starts from the bottom, from the feet, and it slowly compresses up the leg as it's obviously building that compression up to the leg, and then it will release. And after a good 10-20 minutes sat in those, it's very relaxing. But yeah, no, it's fantastic. Definitely feels it makes such a difference. So we'll talk about the difference then. Let's talk about the benefits. So what are the benefits, the key benefits you'd say to the intermittent compression?
Okay, so firstly, we'll go through the 4, the warm-up, recovery, rehab, and travel. So warm-up, first of all, 8 minutes on the boots is worth 30 to 40 minutes on a treadmill. Okay, so how do I come up with that number? We've done research using muscle oxygen sensors, which are strapped to the thigh. So it's measuring SMO, or muscle oxygen activity. So 8 minutes on the boots will get your SMO to a point that would normally take 30 to 40 minutes of warm up, and without the metabolic cost of doing 30 or 40 minutes skipping, or 30 or 40 minutes treadmill or cycling. So it's a good hack for getting your SMO up quickly, because we know that ultimately a lot of people are time poor. They're rushing to the gym to do their session or PT, and they forego the warm-up to the detriment of hitting the high points of the session that they've got planned. There's a much lower metabolic cost to getting into that preparation phase. I would also add that you do need to do the joint mobility and get the ligaments moving, but fundamentally your vascular system's primed and ready to go. And then with the addition of some movement, you're ready to go much faster than it would be without burning the matches or having a high metabolic cost in getting there. So that's the warm-up. Secondly, recovery. So we all know that bridging the gap between your training and getting the super compensation happening, recovery is a key component. You probably noticed when we did the session last year at Ministry of Fitness that people we were running the recovery at MOF, and in between the round robins, people were putting the boots and the pants on and the shorts. They were lying down, talking to their friends for a couple of minutes, and then they were fast asleep.
Yeah.
Right. So what is that all about? Well, the recovery element, we see this as a very common phenomenon, even in a noisy place like a race, where the body's parasympathetic system is triggered and your body is going into rest and digest. In other words, I'll summarize it by saying you're uploading gains. You're really resetting the nervous system, because muscle pain is not the muscle, it's your nervous system. And it's your nervous system that's a key component in releasing the growth hormones and having that state of positive generation of regrowth, repair, healing, and gains. So that's a key component. So even in a noisy environment, and that's why that's why we say warm up 10 minutes, not 20 or 30. 20 or 30 minutes, you're probably going to snooze. 10 minutes is fine.
Not ideal for the workout.
Yeah, so there's a warm-up phase. Rehab, let's say unfortunately, sooner or later, with the way anyone who trains, sooner or later you're going to pick up a niggle, unfortunately. And I know that inevitably that happens as we push our bodies. So let's say it's a knee. You've got a knee strain. You can put a ice pack, like a gel pack, that you can wrap around your limbs. Let's say it's a knee, wrapping it around your knee, then have it inside the cuff, zip the leg cuff up, and then have the pressure down nice and low. Now you've got ice and compression. So you've got a combination of the pain relief of ice and the controlling any internal bleeding if it's an impact injury, or if it's massive swelling. You're controlling that using the ice, and also you have the benefit of compression. Now, we get asked this question quite a lot. So why don't we do ice all the time?
Yeah.
Compression. Well, actually, ice delays healing.
So even the cryotherapy. What about this style of recovery?
All right. Okay. So I'll touch on ice, seeing we're there. I think ice has its place. Now we work with. We have a contract with 2019 Rugby World Cup. We also supply New Zealand rugby. We supply Singapore rugby, Singapore football. These are collision sports. Probably football a little less so, but there's lower limb contact inadvertently anyway. So I would summarize the use of ice as ice for trauma. So anything that's trauma related, then ice is a good protocol to control bleeding and also pain relief. That's why the rugby players to this day will jump into some ice bins and so on. But what they're doing immediately after that, the guys that we're working with, is then getting onto the compression. That might happen tournament time at, say, rugby sevens here in Singapore on the heat, and the ice is doing another key thing. It's bringing the core temperature down.
Yeah.
And also just keeping on top of any collision damage that they might have had during the game. And they're playing 2 or 3 games a day, so being able to bounce back in between games is quite important. So that's kind of a summary of ice, and I know that lots of people have different thoughts on that, and that's quite okay. I would say that contrast therapy is different, like going plunge pool, spa pool, or plunge pool, spa pool, sauna. Now that's a different modality because you're contracting, expanding. That's giving the body a great chance to recover. It's a form of autophagy as well, so you're releasing the dead stuff out of your body, so that you're making room for no traffic jams, you're making room for new growth and repair. So I think that's a good modality. And so cryogenic chambers also have a role to play. So I think when it comes to recovery modalities, the key point I'm trying to make is what's convenient and repeatable will move the needle, will make a difference. So, for example, I do hot and cold therapy. I do it once every 2 weeks. I do saunaing 3 times a week if I can, 3 by 10 minutes at 90 degrees Celsius. Because I'm a bit older, I definitely need to be recycling all the bad stuff, all the dead cells out, so they can make room for growth. And you know, as that's part of my modality, along with what using the boots for a warm up in the morning, using it either after lunch or in the evening to influence sleep quality as well, is also very important. So I think those things definitely have a role to play, but if it's once a month, it's not going to move the needle. It's what's convenient and repeatable will make a difference. So those things are fine to do, and if you can do them, but think of it of like a pyramid of the things that you do most often will have the biggest influence.
Yeah, so you've got to be realistic in the way that you look at what's accessible to yourself, what can you fit in, what can you achieve the most of and do the most with.
Case in point, using the boots, I can have the boots on and going within 30 seconds.
Yeah, just zip up and go.
Yeah, and that's why we tell people, please do not pack the boots away in their bag. They've got a very nice travel bag. You can use them on an airplane, which is another factor I want to point out a little later on. But you can use them on just have them open and ready to go, because that 30 minutes, that's the morning coffee. So, you know, if I look at Jessie, for example, she's often sending me a picture of her morning coffee. Before she does a morning session, she's doing 10 minutes on the boots. So she's priming the vascular system ready to go. Probably even more so necessary now that she's back home in the UK in the cold.
Yeah, for sure.
So
getting herself warmed up properly.
Yeah, there's another factor. She could go outside and do a warm up and get colder, not warmer.
Yeah.
You could have the blood rushing backwards, not to the extremities, but backwards as a result of doing that. So we've had cyclists attending world champs, and the outdoor temperature has what was 10 degrees. So they did a primer on the boots at the hotel before they did the biomechanical part. So they reached the start line way ahead of the game versus people that had just biked there. So there's a good point. I hope that illustrates. Let's just talk briefly about the fourth. So we've gone warm-up, recovery, rehab, travel. So once upon a time in the future, we'll be traveling again to races. Now,
Can't wait.
Let's say Will is trained all year for a race, and he's got to Spartan World Champs, and it's at Tahoe. So now Will gets on a plane for 14 hours, maybe with a layover somewhere. The moment, and you've trained 6 months with it, you've left no stone unturned until you got on the plane. They close the cabin door. The next thing that happens is the SPO, your muscle oxygen, your blood oxygen, will drop from 99% to about 94%. Okay. Now your body's producing edema. So have you ever seen the phenomenon when they close the cabin door, ready to push back and take off, that a lot of people fall asleep?
No, I've not seen that actually.
It just happens all the time. So maybe you're one of the few that doesn't. That's because the cabin pressure's just dropped. Now your body's reaction to that is you're producing edema. So some people suffer worse than others, but everyone's going to get some swelling. So here you are going to your key race. You've probably got 2 or 3 days before the race because you don't have, the time budget and other budget to go a month before and acclimatize. And now your body's fighting to get rid of the edema just when you need it to be in the best shape possible. So there's the scenario. So the use case is you use the boots on the plane.
Interesting.
Yeah. So you can use them. You could use them once every 2 hours for half an hour. The battery lasts 4 hours. You can charge it on the plane anyway. Yeah, that's going to be a great help to making sure that you're reaching you're leaving no stone unturned to reach your goal race, because you've probably spent a lot of money, not the least of which was the air ticket, but there's the journey in getting yourself into that shape and into that condition. So leaving no stone unturned at the last minute is very important. But I would also point out that marginal gains are actually a daily thing. So training is a daily stimulus, recovery is a daily response, or a daily complement to that, in order to have this incremental journey of marginal gains that compound over time. That's a very important thing. So it's not just, hey, let's use this stuff in race week. I'm sorry, you've missed the point of what marginal gains are. So, yeah.
Okay, so we've spoken about obviously the intermittent compression. How does that compare then to other forms of recovery? Like you've got your guns, you've got your massage balls, your foam rollers, your just standard stretching. How does it compare to any of these?
Okay, yeah, good question. So let's talk about guns. For example, I have a gun myself. It's a TerraGun. The TerraGun people were very interested in what we were doing and reselling our product. So we did a swap. They've got our product, we've got theirs. So how I see that a gun is, the percussion technology is essentially breaking down scarring around the insertion points and along the length of the muscle to help lengthen it out to return range of motion. So this is typically the sort of sports that we do are repetitive in nature. If you look at the type and style of chin-ups, of lifts, of running, it's repetitive in nature. So therefore muscles do over time shorten and need to be returned to normal range of motion in order for us to remain optimal. So the gun has a role in that. I see it closely aligned to a good sports massage, because a good sports masseuse is going to get into the insertion points, find the blockages, break down scar tissue, and allow the muscles to lengthen out. So both those modalities have a frequency about their treatment to be a sweet spot. So it may not be something you do every day. Like a good sports masseuse, when I was coaching, I would prescribe that to my athletes during a rest week, because they're probably going to be pretty wrecked after that massage.
Yeah.
They're probably going to be worse before they're better. Why? Because you're having that breakdown process. So those modalities, I think they're quite closely aligned. I think good sports masseuse is worth their weight in gold. And it's something you should do, once a month or twice a month. So that would be an appropriate frequency. Now we're talking about frequency and return on your recovery method, the return on the investment of that. I would align that, or I would compare that to the use of the boots would be daily or twice daily. It could be warm up in the morning or before your morning session. It could be last thing at night. It could even be while you and I are sitting on this video, we could be wearing the boots.
I'm on right now.
Yeah, exactly. So because they're not going to intrude. So you can be sitting on a conference call and treating that as recovery time as well. So using the boots won't have any tissue damage like, for example, a hands-on massage may. So it can be a frequent modality. It's actually mimicking the body's natural healing process, and it's speeding up the release, that parasympathetic response, and speeding up the release of the growth hormones. Now, bit of a tip for your upcoming tournament.
Yeah, for Operation Alpha.
Okay, folks, you alphas, get on the boots before your session. Remember, 8 minutes is worth 30 minutes. 8 minutes on the boots is worth 30 minutes. So get on the boots before and do the priming. So much lower metabolic cost than actually doing a 30-minute treadmill or the like, or skipping or the like. You'll still need to mobilize. Let's say you're doing kettle swings. You'll still need to mobilize the joints, but this is going to get you and a warm-up advantage at a lower metabolic cost. Then as soon as you're finished, get in some nutrition, some hydration, then get on the boots to prepare for the next round. Hopefully you're going to get through to the next round. So there's my tip for the tournament day, is before at least 8 to 10 minutes, and then afterwards around 20 minutes.
So you're going to be there on the day. We'll have you set up in your space. So obviously, if you're doing showcase of the recovery system item products.
Yep. So we'll send the gear down ahead of time the day before. We'll be coming down late morning. We've got an early commitment on that day, but we'll be there late morning. We'll also do some filming. We're supporting the event with a lucky draw, but there's a few things that you need to do. You need to sign up for our newsletter, which is on our Instagram, Recovery Systems. You can see it written on my hat. There's a link there to our sign up, and then follow our Instagram. And then we're going to be doing that draw late in the day, and that's for our mini product, which is a very good knee length, highly portable 500 gram recovery boot at full strength. So so that's how you engage with us. Now, otherwise, if you like the sound of what we've talked about, you can book a demo with us earlier than the 28th of March. So you can message me through our Instagram, or you can rent for a month. So we have a rental system where you rent for a month, and should you decide that you love the product, we deduct the rental off the purchase price. We also have a 3-month interest-free payment plan as well. So there's lots of different ways you can engage with us, lots of different ways you can try the product, either a demo or a month trial. Lots of the folks you mentioned have had the product for 2 or 3 years now. Jesse, Alona, Eunice, Bex, Lucy, Dominic, Lefty, Lehun, Wong, and the list goes on. So these are just some of the Spartan folks that spring to mind. But lots of these folks have had different recovery systems models. Many of them have added from legs. They've added to the legs the hip and glute. Some of them have added the arms as well. Some of them have added the duo connector so 2 people can share. So we call this, or they called it, the new date night. I had my our athlete customers calling it the new date night. So, and sending pictures of them both on the boots with a glass of wine and enjoying some relaxing time together. So I thought that was really cool.
You guys are the only company that have the duo connector as well. Is that not first in the world?
Yeah, that's right. That is a world first, and also some points of difference. We are twice the pressure of most of the others that are out there in the market. We also have 6 air cells versus 4 or 5 for some models. And we do have different models within that, but I'll just speak in general terms. We're the first to do the duo. We have 4 recovery modes. Most other people only have 1 or 2. So the modes are doing slightly different things, slightly different ways of achieving the same result, but they have different sweet spots depending on what cuff you're wearing, or depending on whether you might have an injury or not, or whether it's just general flush, flush the system, speed up the gains. So we have kind of a different modalities for different people. So so there's a few differentiators, and the other factor is that our battery life is twice the industry standard. So
perfect.
Yeah, we're around 4 hours on the battery. So generally, most of the batteries out there are either 1 or 2 hours. So there's a few points of difference, and the reason why we did that, the reason why we did the duo, and we looked at the functionality, we looked at the pants, we understood what our athletes were giving us feedback is, can we have a second person sharing the same machine? We asked ourselves, aside from being a dumb business idea, we thought, you know what, I'm a coach and I'm connected to lots of athletes, clubs and teams. That's a great idea. I could see the real rationale for doing that. And gyms have embraced that as well in having our duo systems in the gym. So for them, it means more bums on seats. It's an additional service. Quite often there's a fee involved, but it's really lifting the the profile of the gym to encompass recovery at the gym, or warm up and recovery at the gym. The community has embraced that really nicely.
Fantastic. Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Mike. That's awesome chat. Really interesting to kind of just understand a lot more about the recovery benefits and obviously the intermittent compression. Fantastic. Thanks for the chat. We look forward to seeing you on March the 28th for Operation Alpha. Thank you very much.
All right, that's cool. Thanks, everyone, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the day.
Perfect.